is we talk pretty openly about the struggles we've had in our marriage, because I know that's the case for a lot of couples, even if you can't openly admit it. And every time Mark says like the word porn on our podcast, a little piece of my soul, I think, dies right in front of you.
Welcome back, Life in Abundance. It never fails. Bree is already had it with me. We've maybe talked to each other for about 15 minutes today, and she sits down and she's like, I'm on one. And what else did you say?
No, that you're on one.
That I'm on one.
Yeah. And that I'm coming in hot for you.
Yeah.
And that's not what you hope it means.
I mean, you know what? My mind didn't go there.
Oh, I'm shocked.
My mind didn't go there because I am a little bit more mature than that.
Oh, okay.
So you need to clean it up a little bit.
Okay, no problem, Jen. Anyways, so over it. Stop. We just did a little table talk inside with our video guy, just filming our lunch conversations, and they were not anything less than entertaining for sure. So where we're at this week, I think we're operating a lot differently than last week. Last week was kind of a hot mess. And we recorded our podcast last week on my birthday, actually, which did not feel at all like my birthday. And coming back from our council event down south, we just had rolled right into a week full of events and production, and it just was a lot. It took a toll on our family, took a toll on me physically, emotionally, mentally. I even feel like my body's off, and this week my goal is just to be grounded and reset. And it's amazing how in life you just have to do that. And when Mark and I were talking about this topic of conversation for today on the podcast, I said, looking at what we went through as 21, 22-year-olds opening our first business 17, 18 years ago, what that looked like for us was sacrificing a lot in that time in our life, to open our salon. We were 21, 22 years old. We didn't have a clue as to what we were doing. Mark didn't even own like a toolbox, let alone any tools. And we took on a project to basically build everything ourselves with the help of kind of our handyman after hours, because we were both working full time at the time. And now looking at what we are doing 18 years later, 17 years later, it's not much different. You still are making sacrifices. You're still stepping into a space that you're not all that familiar with. There's a lot of unknowns, and just kind of forecasting in the future is going off of like what you know from other people, sharing their experience, and really seeking guidance from your peers, and just praying to God that you have somebody to help kind of spot you through the darkness, if you will. And for me, going through opening the salon, the sacrifices we made was every penny went to that. It was exhausting. It's like every time we turned around, we were having to make more money to pay more money to open this machine up. And at that time, it was not something we had a whole lot of cash flow to do, but we figured it out and we made the sacrifices to do it. So it's funny. I remember one night being there so late. The salon was completely empty, and Mark was hanging every pendant light over each station. And there were 10 stations, so that's 10 lights and then 3 over the shampoo bowl. And he's like kind of on the last one of the shampoo bowl, and I'm just sweeping up stuff, like trying to be busy to look like I'm doing something. And you could see like people lining up at the bar across the street. Here we were, 21 and 22. We should probably be standing in that same line, but we weren't. We were hanging light fixtures. You want to tell people what happened on the ladder?
I thought you were going to go there.
I would rather you.
Well, I'm towards the last light, so there's 13 of them, and this was like they're kind of big bulbs, or bowls, and I was a little tired. And Bree's down there, and I couldn't get this one screw in, and Bree from down below is like, "Do you want me to try it?" And I looked at her, and I had a wrench in my hand, a screwdriver, and I threw it at her.
It didn't hit me, but I think you wish it had.
Yeah. And I said, why don't you just keep sweeping up dirt on the concrete? Mind your own business.
Oh, it was so awful though, you guys. You know, you're so tense and you're at the tail end of your project and just want it to be over. Your patients are just tapped, and that's exactly where we were. And last week, I feel a little similar to that. We were exhausted and we just couldn't come out of the stress and the layers of everything we're going through right now. And at this point in our life, it's hard because I feel like we're still kind of half in, half out, still, you know, dealing with, I'm still doing hair training and teaching and coaching, which I love. And then I'm training and teaching and coaching in the coaching space, which is completely different, but all similar. I feel kind of like in this world, I'm stuck. And the sacrifices that I'm making right now to pursue this is stepping away from my salon chair to create space to do this. It takes a toll on our family financially, especially. There's like a huge gap there because training is not producing, coaching is not producing what the hair world was for me at all. So that's a life adjustment we've had to make for our family, and the sacrifices that come alongside with that are not just sacrifices I make, but they affect everybody around us. So it's just interesting how you go through that process at 21 and 22 to build something, and then again at 39 and 39. I was going to say 40, you're almost 40, big boy. But yeah, you're still making sacrifices, and it doesn't matter the game. It's that's always going to be there. To grow and to stretch and hit the next level, what you have to give up is sometimes things that you want to hold on to so tight because it's what's comfortable and what you know, but there's a sacrifice for the trade-off of something better. And this morning I was just reading through the book of the framework of what we do in Wake Up Warrior and in our coaching program. And you really like the frame that you have created to be your life, things that are your foundation. Right now for Mark and I, we are completely removing those and replacing it with something totally different. And what that requires is for you to make incredible sacrifices that most people couldn't even comprehend, let alone do it. And so I just texted a friend this morning of where I'm at, and I said, I'm just in a hard place of getting through this time of feeling in limbo. And just a hard position to be in. So anyways, last week I talked about on our podcast that God spoke to me to give my salon away. And that's super intimidating because that's something that I've known for 17 years. And it's not just what I've known. I remember the sacrifices that I made 17 years ago to have what I have. And every year there in between. Because to grow and extend to the next level, there was another sacrifice. There was another thing that I had to give up or extend myself, or hours of time I had to put in, hours away from my family that I had to put in. So now to feel like, okay, God, was all that for nothing? I know that it wasn't, but I have to be so conscious and aware and make an effort to not let myself step into that scarcity mindset that will derail the plan. Like Mark walked in and we were going over the budget to present to somebody today. He's like, salon doesn't really take all that much to run. I said, I know, and this makes me contemplate every reason why I'm doing this. And he's like, like you didn't know where to go from there, right? Like, what are you saying? You don't know? You do want to go? You don't?
Like, she's been on one today, so I don't know what to say, where to go. So I was like, yeah, okay. I'll get the budget ready.
Oh, yeah. But, as you're making these changes, it's not just about shifting the identity of who I was or am, I guess, but remembering the sacrifices that I've made, not just myself, but my family to be where we are. It's just a really hard thing to give up and let go of. To know then to step to the next level, there's a sacrifice that comes with that. And I'm weathering that right now. And it really has taken a toll on me and my family and everything that I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I feel like that's in anything in life. If it's in your body, marriage, business, if you want to get to the next level, you have to sacrifice. If you want to, start doing something different, you have to sacrifice certain things. And in your body, it could be food, could be time at the gym, whatever it is. In your marriage, it could be, hey, I got to start doing date nights. I got to start taking my wife out of town. I got to start communicating better. And that's a sacrifice. It's hard. It's not easy. Us doing marriage counseling is not, it's weird. It's easy, but it's not easy. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done, because you have to dig up years of things that you didn't do, or you didn't communicate well. You have to change it all, or you choose to change it all. And that is very hard to do, because I'm a reactive person and I like to explode and get mad and yell. And for me not to do that, it takes a little bit of effort, which is I have to sacrifice a lot of my emotions, a lot of my feelings, and know that the bigger picture, that if I do that, my marriage will last. If I do not do that, my marriage probably will not last. And so, and same thing in my body. Like, I'm realizing that you have to sacrifice not drinking as much, not eating the fast food and the food that might taste better, but knowing that in the long run, I'm going to be a lot better for it. And it's like what I always say, it's like I'm in it for peace and freedom, not short-term happiness.
So what is the goal for your body?
Me?
Yeah.
It'd be 215 at 12% body fat.
And what are you now?
211, 210 at 18%.
Live by the code.
Yeah.
That's right. 211?
Yeah, I weighed yesterday.
Oh, okay. Does that fluctuate?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Like, if I eat breakfast or not, I'll be down like 3 pounds.
Oh, you eat 3 pounds of breakfast? It's intense.
Yeah.
All right. No judgment.
Yeah.
No, it's so true. And I feel like what Mark and I are going through right now, that is, I talked about this on the call, and I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, but one thing that's hard for me is we talk pretty openly about the struggles we've had in our marriage, because I know that's the case for a lot of couples, even if you can't openly admit it. And every time Mark says like the word porn on our podcast, a little piece of my soul, I think, dies right in front of you. It's still hard for me to talk about that topic. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, my eye wants to twitch right now, because we're still working through trauma or pain or sacrifices, if you will, from like what that's done in our marriage, and where we're at right now to overcome some of the things that we have been through, requires us to be completely open and honest and vulnerable and sacrifice your privacy. Because in order for us to work through this, I have to be very honest about where we're at and where we were. And that's not easy for me. And the crazy part is yes, that is part of my story and my life, but that is part of Mark's journey in how he coaches and relates to men who have struggled or suffered with some of the same things. And I have to allow him to expose that part of our life that I didn't want the world to know. The truth is, what I'm finding as we share those things that are so hard and there's such deep and horrible pain there, it's also so freeing when you can offer somebody else a sense of light for their future, that their marriage doesn't have to end from suffering from something that they may have never been able to even picture what the future could be together. And now I get to speak from what that can look like is 10 times better than it ever was before. So feeling compromised in your privacy, if you will, the truth is, you signing up for what we have, that is one of the sacrifices that comes alongside with coaching.
And when we first started, just, I won't say airing because that's not the right word, but just being upfront and honest. Yeah, speaking about what's going on in our life and just putting it out there publicly, it actually gets, for me, like, easier. Like, I don't, like, there's nothing now that I need to hide or want to hide, or like I don't need to share. Like, I'll tell you anything you want to know. And if you know me now, that's what they know me as. Like, this guy pretty much just says it all. And it's because I'm not embarrassed by what I do. There's things that I used to lie to myself a lot. And I used to do a lot of things that have brought me guilt and shame. And I didn't want to talk about them because I knew I needed to stop those things, or I maybe shouldn't be talking like that. And, but I was such in the cycle of it that I didn't want to sacrifice it. I didn't want to stop it because I was too comfortable there. And when you sacrifice, you get uncomfortable. And the only way that you are going to get what you want in life, like what you truly want, is that you have to get uncomfortable, and you have to collide with people, with things you think about, with the frames you believe in. And like Bree and I were both raised in similar households in the way they like acted and thought. And it's like very much private, very much don't show anything, don't talk about anything. And it's like us doing this, everybody's like, what is going on? And most people don't understand it, and that's okay. But I can tell you there is something so freeing about being able to be completely honest and vulnerable in front of people and sacrifice your ego, your pride, all that, and just let it all out. And not in like a crazy way, but if you're just having a conversation, you're like, yeah, dude, I struggle with that. Or I did struggle with that. Or me and my wife do struggle and we almost got divorced, or whatever it might be. And because people can relate to that. They can't relate to being perfect.
It's not even like you need to share that with the world. It's you need to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
You don't need to air your dirty laundry. But if you can't say it to yourself and acknowledge what you're struggling with, how do you ever expect to fix it? This is the truth, is some people don't want to fix it.
I had this conversation with a guy at the gym today. He's getting divorced. And I said, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and like get truthful. And he's like, yeah, I do that, but my wife does not. I said, it's hard. He's like, no, I know. He goes, I have to do it almost daily because I want to go back into the old self. I said, I 100% get that. Like, it is hard to look in the mirror and be like, where am I at? And not just a surface question, but actually like a deep of like, hey, where's my body and what is it doing? Where's my marriage? Like, am I having the amount of sex I want? Am I having the amount of connection I want with my wife? Am I being the dad that I need to be? Whatever it is, and be actually really truthful and think about it, not just like, yeah, that's good, but actually knowing like, no, I want more, or I want less, or whatever it might be. And it's like when you could do that and do that on the daily, where you constantly remind yourself of what you truly want, not to be happy, but to have peace. That's what it's about.
Yeah, definitely. And, this was something we went over in marriage counseling last week, being a number 8 on the Enneagram scale, if you will. I have a really hard time admitting when I need something from Mark, and just being completely honest. And Mark will ask me how I am, and like every other woman, I'm sure you respond, I'm fine. And I was not fine last Tuesday. I was just melting away last Tuesday, going through some really hard inner work that I know I have to go through to do what I'm doing. And this is being completely honest with myself and exposing myself to myself that, Bree, you are not okay. Where you are at, you are not okay. And guess what? That's okay. And for the longest time, I felt like I had to be okay to hold it all together so that I could go out and do what I needed to get done. And nobody really gave me an option. And in the place I'm in right now, it's okay to do things not okay. And I had to openly admit that to Mark, that I needed to lean into him in a way that I never have before. And that was really hard for me to do, but also at the same time, like so freeing and refreshing to know that I can. I never have been in a place in my marriage until this year that I felt like I could truly like let my guard down and lean into him and trust him. And partially because, I think 100% of the reason why is I know he's doing the work. And that is being completely open and vulnerable and honest with your partner about where you're at. So, we're very different people than we were even a year ago. In our table talk inside, we were talking about what we would tell our 21-year-old self getting married, 18 years later. And Mark said, don't worry so much about the little stuff. And I think for me, I need to pay attention more to the little stuff. Yeah.
I feel like when you sacrifice a lot in your life, it becomes, I don't want to say easier, but the pain. It's like when you work out and you've trained like an athlete, or you've been an athlete, and you know what pain feels like. You know what the soreness feels like. That people that have never trained before, they let the pain overtake them. And Bree and I have experienced pain at a young age with opening businesses and doing things and being married young. We experience the pain and the sacrifice. And does it get easier? Not really, but we know what the pain feels like. We know what it takes to budget. We know what it takes to live skinny as far as in finances. We know what it takes as far as in our marriage, the communication, what we need to do with ourselves. And it's the more you sacrifice, the more you grow, and the more that you have a testimony at the end of it. Mm-hmm. And we can help people that are our old selves at 22 and go, hey, listen, like this is what we did, and I would avoid that as much as possible. You can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But these are some habits that we avoid, or we try to avoid now, because we saw what it did to us back then. Mm-hmm. So I used to always avoid sacrifice because I thought comfort was where it was at, like being easy and it's on cruise control. And then it took me a long time to be like, no, man, you got to start sacrificing again, because that's the only way you're going to grow internally and externally too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Well, I think for us where we're at right now is just leaning in and God, expanding our faith beyond anything that we've ever known in our life. I thought at 21 years old, opening a business, taking out a loan. My loan for my salon, and not kidding, was $40,000. And I thought I was going to die. It's like, oh my God, I can't pay. This is stressing me out. I have 7 years to pay this back. And I paid that sucker off in 2.5 years. And I was so excited to get that thing paid off. I didn't draw a single penny from my business until I paid that thing off. And that felt so good. And how funny the sacrifice I'm at right now, the level that you're at in life. It's like $40K doesn't seem like a drop in the bucket in the scope of things when you look at what you built. But then for me, then it was outrageous. And myself I'm talking to in 10 years from now is going to tell the self I'm at now, hey, what you're dealing with right now isn't even a drop in the bucket. So it's just amazing how that works. And life just continues to evolve. So you can choose to hang on tight and go for it, or allow yourself to be debilitated in fear and never step out of that comfort zone. Here we are. We're doing the dang thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because I was in the latter for a long time, and I can tell you this much: it looks good from the outside, but on the inside, you die. You slowly die. And this sacrificing that I'm doing now and Bree is doing, there's something internally that is like kind of lit us up a little bit. Mm-hmm. Are we scared shitless? 100%. Do we know what this is going to, we have no idea what this is going to look like. We hope, we pray.
But you have these testimonies from people that you're already working with that are seeing these drastic changes in their life. And you're like, I know what that feels like.
Yep.
There's so much truth to this. And that's why you have to remember who you are served to, who you are called to serve. And when you make it not about that, that is when doubt and fear creep in. And we just have to keep our eye focused there. So I'm sure there's things that you're dealing with in your life that is, there's great fear there. All the what ifs. I can promise you, I know the pain of not jumping when you knew you were supposed to. Mm-hmm. And that pain is far worse than going and even failing. Because I've experienced that too. Yep. So, yeah. I think that's a wrap today, baby.
It's a wrap. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you are watching us on YouTube, give us a like and a subscribe. Same thing on Apple or Spotify. Give us a subscribe and a like. We greatly appreciate it. Until next time, life in abundance with the Gentrys. God is good.
Thank you, guys.